Well, I'm delighted to be here in the presence of former political prisoners, Mohammed and Homa, and also Mustafa and Hamid. I want to commend you all for your moral courage and indeed for reminding us of the importance of freeing political prisoners by your presence. Indeed, your presence dramatizes the compellability and urgency of freeing Saeed Malanpour, now in his 9th year of imprisonment, whose persecution and prosecution and torture and wrongful imprisonment constitute a case study of political prisoners in Iran, of the assault on human rights and the rule of law in Iran, in Khamenei's Iran, because I want to distinguish that from the people and publics in Iran who are themselves the massive targets of the domestic repression in Iran. This pattern of prosecution and persecution, of systemic and substantive injustice in Khamenei's Iran finds particular expression in Saeed Malanpour's case, which includes the following. Number one, the criminalization of innocence, where people are imprisoned not for what they do, but for who they are, where Khamenei's Iran has borrowed from Soviet Stalin with the motto of "give us the prisoner and we will find the crime." Second, the criminalization of fundamental freedoms, freedom of expression, freedom of association, and the like, which are guaranteed under both Iranian law and international treaties to which Iran is a state party. Third, the wrongful conviction and wrongful imprisonment based on false and absurd trumped-up charges. Four, the brutal torture in detention to coerce a false confession. Five, the denial of the right to a fair trial in all its respects, whether it be the denial of the right to counsel, the denial of the presumption of innocence, and one can go on. Six, the harassment, the intimidation, and the abuse of family members. And Mariam Saeed's sister here is an expression and case study in that regard. Seven, the criminalization of internet use, using the alleged pretext of Saeed's software use as a pretext for overall criminalization. Eight, the hostage issue, which has been mentioned by Mahmoud Fahmy so well. Nine, the state-sanctioned character of his prosecution, where the IRGC is a central figure in it. And finally, and not to be forgotten, the culture of impunity in Iran, where not only is no one held responsible, but as we meet, the Minister of Justice in Iran, Mustafa Mohammadi, is a person responsible for the mass murder of the Iranian dissidents in 1988, and he is today the Minister of Justice. And so on with this, I conclude, it's our responsibility to stand in solidarity with Saeed and his family, to let them know that they are not alone, that we will not relent until Saeed is freed. And this means we must intensify our advocacy on his behalf as a counterweight to the criminalization of his persecution and prosecution, that we must make it clear to the Canadian government that they have a responsibility to make Saeed's freedom a priority in their relations with Iran as a matter of principle and policy. Three, and here I take this from Mohammed's remarks, Raif Badawi, we have to internationalize the advocacy on Saeed's behalf, involving other governments, other parliamentarians, creating an international legal team so that the Iranians will appreciate that this is an international as well as Canadian study of the first order. Number four, engage civil society, as Amnesty International has done, and I'm delighted that later on this month in Geneva, the annual summit of democracy and rights, where we'll be showcasing the case and cause of political prisoners, Saeed Malanpour's case will have a central place. Number 5, that we must end the culture of impunity in Iran by sanctioning the human rights violators of Iran and begin with those who have been involved and continue to be involved in Saeed Malampour's torture and imprisonment. Number 6, we have to revive the Iran Accountability Week, which we began 6 years ago, whose focus is on human rights in Iran, and where we began then and must continue the global Iranian political prisoner advocacy project. And Ali, I hope you will be a central figure in this year in Parliament. And finally, as Mariam put it, Saeed's life and freedom is in our hands. This can be Saeed's moment if we make it our moment and do our part and undertake our responsibilities. Thank you.